And we are all set. Thank you, Mike.
All right. I'm going to say hello here briefly with my camera on, but I have to get kind of close to my screen. So I will probably mute my video here in just a second. So I'll say hello and goodbye if y'all don't mind, in a video sense anyway. Let me make sure that this gets full screen. All right, we'll be toggling in and out of that here and there. Again, I'm Michael Servone. I'm with Technology Services, and I'm a product owner for Technology Services in the area of generative AI. Some of you might have seen this screen on Monday, but we'll show it again so that you have some sense of who I am. I joined U of I in 2008. And I've been here and there. Started at WYOL as a radio automation specialist. And then I moved on to Swanland System Services, doing deeper things in IT support. I've been at the College of Applied Health Sciences as a technician there, and at Technology Services, actually, two different times. And I've been a product owner for a couple of years now. First for the telephone service, which you get through Teams and for Zoom, and now in the AI area. Have some interesting notes about my educational background in there. As I mentioned on Monday, I'm kind of enjoy being a student, and I'm really enjoying the opportunity to be a student and research AI tools as I'm doing my coursework. And finally, I play the ukulele, and that'll come up a little later on in the presentation today as an important topic. You'll notice my contact information is there if you ever want to chat about AI, technology, or music. Send me an email or find me on Teams. I like to chat on Teams a lot. All right. Well, goals for this presentation. There were several different ways that I could go with the title that we had for the topic. But as I was working with folks on Monday, I got a sense that it'd be best to stay with tools that everybody could use on campus, and by everybody I mean faculty, staff, and students. So we're going to look at three technologies in the overall portfolio of generative AI chatbots that we offer, because everybody can use them and you don't have to pay extra for them. You just log in and get to work. So we'll start there and make some notes about some other things as we go along. I'll be talking about Copilot Chat, which is included in your Office licensing, Google Gemini, which is part of the Google Workspace, and Google Notebook LM, which is an interesting technology that I've really enjoyed using as I've studied both college level coursework and even when I was taking some certifications in AI for Microsoft exams. So, just to give you some sense of what's available here, again, these technologies available to everyone. The Copilot stuff is a little easier to get to because you don't have to turn any switches on in order to get access to it. You're going to have an M365 account, which gives you access to email and to Microsoft Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, and all of that stuff. And it's all included with your A5 license, whether you're a faculty, staff, or a student. And the nice thing about it is you get the chat bot. You get a lower priority when Microsoft does the processing. So some of your responses may get delayed from time to time when they are experiencing peak traffic. But in general, if you're just exploring, you should be all right with the standard access that the basic license gives you. Recently, they've changed it so that you will now have access to your Outlook inbox, both in terms of messages in your email and to your calendar. And you can do some querying on both of those through the integration with Outlook. Can't get to your Teams messages or your OneDrive or SharePoint, unfortunately, but at least they've opened the door for email messaging in there. And we'll talk about a couple of agents that you can use with your Copilot chat as well. And I'll define what an agent is in a little bit if you're not familiar with that. If you want to compare Copilot Chat, which is the basic version of Copilot, with the premium version, you can go to that Go link, go.illinois.edu/Copilot versions. There is the documentation from Microsoft that will help you determine whether you need to invest in the premium license, which is, I believe, $223 for a year through the web store. But everything we're going to do today, you're going to be able to do with the standard basic Copilot chat. On the Google Gemini side, again, available to everyone, with a little bit of a thing that you have to do in order to get access. If you haven't gone to the cloud dashboard and turned the little switch on to give you access to Google, it'll tell you can't log in. So use that Go link if you haven't done that before, and turn on your Google Workspace, and that will give you access to Google Gemini. And there is quite a generous amount of access that you can get from Google Gemini. And again, if you go to the Go link in the slide, go.illinois.edu/Gemini versions, look for the column that says Education Plus, and that will define the types of things that you can do with Google Gemini. You can create photos, you can do some deep research, you get access to thinking models, you get some access to pro models. Pretty generous, I think, and I think you'll find that useful. All right. Let's talk about personal versus enterprise accounts. And this came up in a couple of the talks that I was part of on Monday. With Microsoft, it's pretty straightforward. If you're using your at illinois.edu account, you're not likely to fall into a situation where you're using that email with a personal account. Though all of the apps allow you to add a secondary account. So you want to make sure when you're using university data in particular that you're logged into your university account, which you'll be able to see by clicking that button down in the bottom left of your screen, whether you're in the browser or in the app, it doesn't matter. And then verifying your account information. Make sure it's your at illinois.edu email address. The other thing that will be a clue to let you know that you're using your campus account is on the right-hand side, there's a little shield up there which verifies that your data and your conversations are protected by our enterprise agreement. So as you're using Copilot, make sure that little shield is there. That'll tell you you're signed into your enterprise account, and you'll be good to go. Again, you need to verify your at illinois.edu email account. On occasion, folks will have access to other M365 accounts, whether they're doing nonprofit work for other organizations or whatnot. And your browser can get confused if you're logging in and out. So just make sure you're in your University of Illinois campus account. Same thing with Google Gemini. Click on the bottom left when you're logged in, the browser or in the app, and verify that you are using your campus account. And you got a little square that says managed by illinois.edu. That tells you you're using Google Gemini with your campus account. And on the campus or on the Google Gemini side, this is particularly important. I mentioned this on Monday, and I should have added the slide to it. In general, if you're using the personal Google Gemini and you have your activity history turned on, your chats and data are subject to human review and model training. That's just the way Google does stuff. There's not a way to have your activity on and turn off the model training. The only way to avoid the model training in the personal space is to turn off your activity and have temporary chats. The good news is that in the university account, all of your chats and data are protected by our enterprise agreement. So if you're logged into your university account, no worries about model training or any of that. All right, so let's take a little bit of a look at Microsoft Copilot Chat to begin with. And I thought I'd start with just a simple chat. We've got a weather event going on here in Champaign-Urbana today. And last night when I was finalizing my slides, I figured, well, why don't we ask Copilot about that and see what we might get? In order to do that prompt, I used what is called the Microsoft Prompt Framework. If you haven't explored that before, this is a really helpful way to shape your prompts so that Copilot knows exactly what you're looking for. And you'll notice that there are 4 areas in the prompt framework, and I go right ahead and put those areas in the prompt. You don't have to. They're just areas that you should cover, but I like to make it straightforward and very clear, even to myself, what I'm trying to do. And so I set a goal, want to know about what's going on with the weather on Wednesday evening. Some context, I got to tell it that I live in Champaign, Illinois. Otherwise, how would it know? I recommended some sources to use for the grounding of that prompt, weather.gov, which is the National Weather Service website, and AccuWeather, which is a popular commercial site for weather. And then the expectations are really about the format. Please summarize the forecast in 1 paragraph, which it faithfully did. And really the output, not necessarily important to our talk here, but a nice paragraph about the weather conditions from those 2 sites. And it did something that I didn't request, which was to give me a little graphic with the forecast over several days. And if I wanted to redo that prompt, I might say, yes, skip the graphic. I don't need that. Just wanted the paragraph. So that's the basics of Copilot Chat. Most of you know how that works. So let's do something a bit more exciting. Besides, we want to talk about the weather anyway. Let's have a little fun with this concept of Copilot agents. Now, agents are a kind of like a plugin or an app for your Copilot Chat. And they consist of 3 areas: knowledge, instructions, and actions. That's what the Microsoft Learn documentation tells us. And they sort of orchestrate the behavior of the AI as it takes in your prompt and provides a completion or an answer to your request. Now, with Copilot Chat, we're able to utilize 2 of these agents. The first is the prompt coach, which helps us to shape and refine our prompts, or quite frankly, even write a prompt if we want. And the idea coach, which is geared at providing a brainstorming partner. It's a really fascinating agent. It won't solve your problem, but it will give you some ideas of how you might go about solving that problem. And we'll take a look at that in a minute. If you want to learn more about Copilot agents, there's a Go link for you. go.illinois.edu/Copilot agents. Now, there are a number of these agents that Microsoft has put together. Most of them you need to have the add-on for, and so we won't discuss them today, aside from listing them. but I wanted you to understand what these were about just a little bit. There's a analyst agent, which is really like having a data analyst. So if you want to get some insights from an Excel spreadsheet, you would use the data analyst. But again, that's for the Copilot add-on. The other one that is with the add-on that I like to use a lot is the researcher agent. That is comparable to the deep research that you'll find in ChatGPT or Google Gemini, as we'll sort of examine today. And the others are pretty straightforward, like the writing coach or the career coach. They could be a lot of fun, but again, you need the add-on for some of those agents. Now, this was a little fun. I did a presentation about these agents for the IT Pro Forum, which you probably can get access to through MediaSpace if you wanted to. And I wanted to have a graphic, which was a summary of what I'd be presenting. And I had Google Gemini's Nano Banana 2 produce that for me. Pretty cool image. And if you like producing images, use Google Gemini. It's a lot of fun. It took the input from the different agents on a page that I had and constructed this graphic for my presentation. Bit fun. All right, so how do we use agents? If you're in your Copilot chat, there's a little section on the left-hand side sidebar, which is labeled agents. You'll notice in mine, I've already got the idea coach and the prompt coach loaded. But if you don't have those, you're going to click on the all agents at the bottom of your agents section. And that will open up a window that gets you to the agent store. So much like any other sorts of plugin situation, you're going to search for the thing that you want or find it in a list, and then add those agents to your interface so that you can work with them. In general, I've noticed with the idea coach in particular, you probably got to search for it and then add it. Prompt coach is generally in the list that is built by Microsoft, but your mileage may vary. All right, so once you find those in the agent store, you're going to have to add them just like any other plugin, and thankfully you get a good description about what these things are before you add them. The agent store also has third-party agents that are available. Be careful with those, especially if you're using university data. You want to make sure that you've had an assessment about that vendor before you add the agents, sign into the account, and then provide university data to it. With the Microsoft stuff, that's all been vetted. You can feel free to add those agents without concern. All right, and back on this screen, because we're going to write a prompt in a minute for the prompt coach, and I wanted to mention that there are two ways to get the prompt coach involved in the process. You can click on the prompt coach on the left-hand side sidebar, and then that will open up a chat window with prompt coach as the title. You'll see that in just a second. The other thing you could do is in the chat itself, just use the @ symbol, and all of the agents that you have added to your Copilot will be available for you to pick from a list. So you can just say, @prompt coach, I need your help with such and such, and it will add the prompt coach agent to your prompt. All right, so let's take a look at this. I figured we'd have a little bit of fun with a little bit of a ukulele project, as I mentioned earlier. And the other fun thing that we're going to do is we're going to kind of tie two of these agents together so that we can produce some output. The first thing we're going to do is write a prompt and provide that to the prompt coach. And I've asked the prompt coach to improve my prompt. And I just noticed here in the picture that the first line of my prompt is missing, which is can you improve this prompt? But you'll notice that I wrote the prompt with the prompt framework. And again, we have a goal, we have a context, we have sources, and we have expectations of what I'd like to see. And so then we feed that into the prompt coach, and then the prompt coach is going to give us a response. And we're going to switch context here because I've got this all laid out in the browser. And hopefully you're going to be able to see what I have gotten from our prompt coach. And that's disappeared on me, but we'll select it over here from the history. And there we go. Now you can see the first line of the prompt and the rest of it. And so nice, the prompt coach. Absolutely, I can help you with that. Not a problem, Michael. And it's going to go through and help to fix my prompt so that it is more defined in what we might want to achieve. So there's the original prompt, you'll see, and an improved prompt. Now, you're going to be amazed by how much more it's offering me. This is the actual prompt that we will run. It's a whole lot longer, and I didn't have to write any of that, which I find fascinating. And even better, why this version is stronger. It's really clearing some things up. It's defining the audience better. And just making things a bit more clear. Now, I will say and admit that I'm finding the greatest challenge in my use of AI, and I mentioned this on Monday, is I'm not particularly good about describing what it is that I want to someone else or to a chatbot. I'm finding that I have a great weakness in that area, and I work hard at it, but it's great to have a coach that will say, you know, Mike, you really didn't think that through, and I really don't know what you mean by that. And after you run it through the prompt coach, you get a stronger prompt, and you're off to the races with the next thing, and you're getting some help there. And I've really enjoyed that. It also provides a shorter version that you could use if you want to. I went ahead and tried the longer version. And a bonus tip, how about that? And if I wasn't satisfied with any of those things, I could go back to the prompt coach and just iterate through that and work interactively with the prompt coach on building the best thing for the next step. So we're going to take the long version of that and plug that into the idea coach. Now, again, this idea coach is a brainstorming agent, and you'll notice I've got all that stuff that I just pasted in there, super easy. And I wanted to have some presentation ideas that I could use in our presentation today. I'm only going to snag one of them, but you'll notice that it's created a table for me. And unfortunately, I don't particularly like this format, but it's not bad. And if I expose some of these other columns, it has made a Microsoft Copilot chat prompt that I could use, Google Gemini prompt, and some other things that I can plug in for each one of these different ideas. And again, this format is not ideal. And if I was to iterate through, I'd probably say, yeah, dump the table. We don't need that. Just put it in plain text. And we've got a number of different things. I am going to select number 4, which Jake is a fabulous ukulele player, and we will do some exploration on his work in just a second. It has some recommended ideas for the strongest live presentation moments and some other ideas. This is just great. And if you are needing to do a brainstorming session with some folks, or you want to do a presentation, and you really don't know where to start, it's not going to solve the presentation problem for you. Um, and so understand that it's just going to give you some ideas that you can use to dig a little deeper and get your whatever you're trying to do in line. I find that really helpful. So let's go back here for a minute. And our next thing that we're going to do is switch to Google Gemini. And now you can see I'm actually using Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini to work together. Partly because I want to demonstrate both tools, but I find that using these two tools together often creates some really good results. And so I'm going to go back to my presentation because I want to show you some things here, which is a little easier to do in presentation mode. And then we'll go back to the examples. So this is Google Gemini. And I'm taking item number 4, not a particularly strong prompt. And if I was to iterate a bit more in the idea coach, I would ask it to write the prompts that it is suggesting in the Microsoft prompt framework. It did not do that. And I placed that into the Google Gemini chat. Now, you'll notice on the right-hand side here, near the button that allows you to submit the chat, that I've selected the thinking model rather than the instant model. You could also select the pro model. And this will give me a quality answer. And I want to make a comparison between that and the deep research, and we'll do that in just a couple of minutes. I did want to mention something about this artist, Jake Shimabukuro. He has changed the ukulele world. And if you have an image of your mind, or in your mind, of what ukulele playing is about, probably with hula dancers sitting on a beach and, you know, that, or maybe singing in the rain or something like that. That might be your image of the ukulele and the artists that are involved in that music making process. If you go to that Go link, Jake is going to change your mind about that. He is a spectacular artist. One of the responses that we even get in the Google Gemini output is he's considered to be the Jimi Hendrix of ukulele playing. He's a fabulous player. Go to that link. You'll really be amazed. And this is what that is about. He took his ukulele to Central Park and he sat down and played a song by George Harrison that he had arranged for his ukulele, and it went absolutely viral. And the performance is stunning. He plays it all the time now, still when he goes out and performs. And after that, the ukulele world exploded. Lots of people buying ukuleles, probably a lot of other people also involved in that growth, of course. One person would not build an empire, but he was certainly instrumental in making some things happen. So take a look at that. If you don't get anything out of the AI part of this today, check out Jake's performance. It's worth the time. Now, I also wanted to compare thinking models with deep research. And this is particularly easy to do in Google Gemini, and it doesn't cost any more. Whereas in the Microsoft world, it costs some. Now, we did the thinking model first, but I've added the deep research in the second version of this, and I'll share the outputs in a minute, and you'll see the difference. And the deep research adds a bit of orchestration on top of the web searching that it's doing. And it's a much more dramatic, sort of more involved sort of process. And you'll get a sense of that. When you use the deep research with the same prompt even, you get this research plan that will pop up. before you do your prompt, and it'll ask you if you want to change anything and modify it. And then you click Start Research, and then you're off to getting some information. Now, we've had this come up in the support queue a few times. What's the difference between a thinking model and deep research? And I used Nano Banana to create this slide. But the thing to keep in mind, either on the Microsoft side or the Gemini side, is that deep research is really about orchestration. It's about managing the entire research workflow. And then the thinking model, or the Think Deeper, as it's called in Copilot, is about going through the material that you've collected and making sense of it. There are two different things geared at two different outputs as you go through your prompt process. So keep in mind, deep research one side, thinking model, different thing. So what does that look like? Let's go back over here. I'm going to move my window just a little bit. All right. This is the output that I got from thinking only. And though it's got some great information there, it's not nearly as detailed as we'll see in the other output. There's a little Jimi Hendrix of the ukulele sort of thing. And I think this is a key aspect to why Jake is a great artist. You know, a lot of people see that instrument as just a novelty. It's not. It can do some complicated things if you want it to do that for you. And it also provided our little follow-up questions to verify the summary, to follow the needs of the prompt. And so that's some interesting stuff there. Now, deep research, same question. We get this substantial prompt here, or research prompt here, where you can do a little bit of tweaking and tuning before it actually goes out and does the research. And then Google Gemini provides you a document which you actually open up in a Canvas sort of way. And then you get a whole lot more information that you can interact with. A lot more information. And as you're doing your research, you can find lots of things to key on to do more manual research. That's the way I use deep research. And what is amazing here is this list of sources that you get. Sources that it used for the output, and sources that it didn't use for the output but had considered in the research. Now, this just isn't sort of stuck on a web search. I used it that way. But you could certainly, in your deep research, ground the prompt with other things that you might have accumulated. So if you are using documents that you got from EBSCO or from some of the other databases in the library, that would help to refine what it is that you want to do a search on and to process, you can add all of those into the prompt, and it would do extensive research and analysis on those things. And I think having this powerful tool and having it included in your Google licensing is just amazing. So those are Microsoft Copilot with some agents, and Google Gemini with Nano Banana 2 image creation, and with thinking prompt, and with a deep research prompt that we've looked at so far. I might just take a pause there and see if there are any questions. You could feel free to unmic if you would like to and ask them, or post them into chat. Anybody have any questions so far? We've got one more thing to take a look at, and that'll be Notebook LM in just a second. I'm seeing some connection sort of things here in the chat that would be a little hard to manage, but we can follow up on those. Okay, so let's talk about Google Notebook LM. And again, we will go full screen here for just a second. I've really enjoyed using this application, particularly in my study for collegiate work and in terms of working with this for some certificates that I had studied for Microsoft certification. Let me go over this interface and then we'll take a look at a few of these things. On the left-hand side is your list of sources. What is really good about Notebook LM, I think, a strength is it's not going to crawl the web for sources for things that you want to ask the model about unless you ask it to do that and then pull those sources in. So what's on the left-hand side in the sidebar is all of the information that the model will consider when it's creating things through the studio or through your prompts. So in terms of when I was working with the Microsoft certification, I had 8 modules, and they generally had 8 pages per module. What I would do for each one of those modules is to make a little notebook and make PDFs of the training, put the 8 PDFs in the left-hand side of this application, and then start asking questions or using Studio to get the information. It's not going to go out to the web and find other things based on those documents. It's going to use what's in the sources. The middle area is your prompt window. It will give a basic summary when you load up the documentation, and then allow you to do prompts. Those will show up as notes over here on the left-hand side, or on the right-hand side, rather, in the studio area. And you'll notice that there are a lot of other tools that you can take advantage of. The audio overview is actually a podcast between 2 voices. And I found that to be really interesting way to learn some of the material. They'll ask each other questions. They'll do a summary of the content. It's actually quite compelling to listen to. In terms of the news, you might have noticed that Google is actually being sued over that particular feature. The male voice sounds a lot like David Green from NPR, and he has sued Google over that. Haven't checked in a while to see where that is, but it's pretty close. So give that a listen and see what you think about that. I haven't actually tried the video overview myself. That's one of the things that I need to do. I've concentrated a lot on the mind maps and on the infographics, the quiz, and the flashcards. All of those things are super helpful. And when I was doing my certification study, I was concentrating on the quiz so that I could have the model ask me questions about the Microsoft technology so that when I went in for the actual test, I was prepared for it. And I felt like that was really helpful. Oh, sorry about that. There's this share button up on the top, and that allows you to share this notebook with other people. And when you click on the share button, you'll get this little share window. And what's really neat about that is you've got both a editor or a person who can manipulate some of the content in the notebook, and you have viewers, and the viewers can only look at the content that you provide. So as a scenario you might consider, if you had a report and you wanted folks to do some analysis of it with AI. You could upload the documents you want in the notebook and provide them access to the notes in the chat and maybe an audio overview and lock it down so they can just view it. Or you can give them a bit more access. This is what that looks like on the viewer side. You can see the notes are there, the audio is there, the mind map is there, and so on and so forth, and the infographic. And so that gives you a way to sort of work with folks in these notebooks in a collaborative way. Now, a downside of that, and I think I had that on the slide, is that these notebooks can only be shared with folks who have an @illinois.edu email address that are in our Google Workspace. You can't share those out to external participants in other workspaces or with general Gmail accounts. I'm not sure if that'll change in the future or not, but at the current time, it is for internal sharing only. All right, so what do those look like? Let's go over here to our Notebook LM. Let's take these notes, sort of echo what's going on here in the chat. And one of the things I wanted to know was I've got this, the content is actually a PDF book that I bought several years ago. I was doing some research for my music business degree around what it takes to build a ukulele music club and some strategies around that. And there's some folks who have gone beyond the hobbyist sort of idea or the sort of the local community group idea and actually turn this into a business. And they talk a lot about how you would set up a group, do the administration of the group. And one of the fabulous things that they found out was that if you're doing a full-time work in this area, you know, it's like 60% administration, 40% actually teaching, music making, the sort of thing, as I recall. And I wanted to know, what are the 5 most important pages of this book and why? And so that I could go and read them and get a little deeper information about them. And it was glad to do that. And you can have all sorts of different kind of chats with this thing on the content. Now, I also played or created an audio overview, which I'm sure you won't be able to hear here, but this will make a podcast, as I mentioned. Oops. It started there. But when you click on this, you can listen to it in the browser, or you can download it and share it out with people. It's kind of cool. I have a radio background, so I made one of these and shared it out with some of my friends in talk radio. And I'm like, AI can do some of that work that you're doing now. And then let's see, where is the mind map? Here is the mind map. I feel like this is really cool. And we can go full screen. So on some of these concepts, core principles, music making, community building, sustainability, and business mindset. This maps this out for you, sometimes with multiple layers, pricing models, casual versus prepaid. You know, musicians have struggled with how to charge people for their services. Should it be like a subscription? Should it be a per lesson sort of idea? They discuss all this, and the mind map sort of maps some of that out for you. And I feel like that is super helpful in trying to get an understanding of the material. The infographic is similarly interesting. It'll create a groovy graphic. Look at that. and sort of talk you through some of these different ideas. And again, it's really about getting this material and finding different ways to access it so that you'll remember it for an exam or for life. And super helpful in my mind. And then finally, I won't go through quiz, but you could set up a quiz. Well, let's do that. If you click here, it will actually take some time to generate the quiz for you. And then it's a permanent part of the studio. Probably will take too long for us to view it here, but that's how you interact with that particular tool in the Notebook LM Studio. And that's about what I have for today. I'll get rid of this here and go back and simply ask for some questions. What's on your mind about these tools? Or if you'd like to share, if you've used them, I'd like to get some feedback from you about how well they do for you. And again, feel free to unmute and just say hello and present your question.
Hi, my name's Jonna.
Okay.
Um, I've used Copilot. I work in the library and I work with extracting metadata out of treatment reports.
Okay.
And I go through them myself, but I've been using them AI to follow up to make sure I didn't miss anything. Because after you've read about 10 of these reports, you you kind of start wandering off a little bit, so use it to double check my work.
Uh-huh.
So I upload the PDF of the treatment report, and I ha also have a controlled vocabulary with definition, so I have it checking my controlled vocabulary against the report or vice versa.
Okay.
It's been very helpful for missing things.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and in fact, what I've done when I've created some of these reports and even need to work some with it in Google Notebook LM is to have it check the data that it creates after it creates it. I did create one report on the artist Victoria Vox. And it actually made up a song that she created, which she didn't create. And when I went back and said, please check the facts here, it said, oh, yeah, found that, made an error. And I feel like both the creation and the fact checking is a really good way to do that.
Yeah, sometimes a lot of the reports are narrative, so sometimes the keyword isn't even in the report, so I have to go with like concepts, and
Hmm.
sometimes it misses those. I just have to be careful and read what it spits out to make sure it didn't go crazy.
Hmm. Oh, that's cool. Do you use Copilot with the Copilot license or just the Copilot chat?
So far I've just been using the Copilot chat, but that's why I'm here, so I can learn some better, easier ways to get it to do a better job. Actually, today I took the spreadsheet and I had Copilot create a code to take the spreadsheet that I had and made it a searchable website. And then I put it into a Google site, and now I have a web page that I can point it to. And it actually did a better job of making the connections with the metadata in this website than it did in the spreadsheet.
Hmm. Um, have you tried the prompt coach before to see if it can tune some of your prompts for the error checking?
No, I can't wait to use that. I added that to my Copilot so I could take the prompt that I have and make it better.
Hmm. Yeah, I actually did that a little bit. I had to do some data analysis on our ChatGPT usage and what the output that we get from ChatGPT actually for the model usage across the different models is in a data container called a JSON structure. And it's just one of the fields in the CSV. And I was like, wow, that's painful. So I used Copilot and the prompt coach to help me write a prompt that would extract that field and then create other fields in the spreadsheet that would flatten that out for me. And then wrote a prompt to have it check the data to make sure that it was accurately done. And I had some success with that. So I kept those prompts available, and that was helpful.
Oh, what did to get the prompt that I just put in the chat is I just basically in plain language asked it to do something and wouldn't quite get the results. So it would say, "Do you want me to do this?" So I'd say, "Yes, do that." And eventually I got this prompt that I put in the chat.
Ah, okay.
I also notice, Mike, there's a comment or two in the chat.
Uh-huh.
Ava asks, I struggle with getting books that are not digital into Notebook, but oh, and offers a solution. Looks like there's a workaround there for anyone
Ah,
interested.
I'm not sure
yeah,
that those will work, but I finally thought to ask the question, how can I do this? So maybe there's something that may be useful if others are considering those same questions.
yeah. Actually, that's exactly what I'm very sad about at the moment. I'm in a procurement management course, and we have a book from McGraw-Hill, and I would love to take chapters of that and put it in Notebook LM and help me
Mhm.
sort through the details. But there's no way to extract that from the application, unfortunately.
Not easily, but the couple of suggestions I just looked at it quickly is that you could record some of record things with your own voice
Ah,
and add those files. And then there were a couple other workarounds. So perhaps this will help you or others.
thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes for me, especially because I'm visually impaired, um, I have a hard time looking at like lots of text and then condensing it down so I have bullet points for those things. And it's very hard for me to sort of work through that. And AI is really good at helping me center on those things and really provide some relief in the work that's behind getting that done. Super study tool for me. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Other comments? Let's see.
Are you able to see the chat, Michael? It looks like Iman has another question there.
Yeah, I'm going to take a note about that. And Tim, if you could share the chat with me post the presentation. I have some others from earlier in the week of some requests to get integration into Canvas. So I'll do some research about that.
Great. Yes, I'll be sure to save it and share it. And yes, Illinois chat is worth looking into, as Amber suggests. It is You are able to use Illinois Chat to integrate it into Canvas. Basically, my understanding is you enroll it as a student in your course, and then it has the same access as any student would, and so could review the entire course and serve as a chatbot inside the course. Illinois Chat is definitely worth taking a look at.
Hmm.
Hi, thank you for the tip. So would we be able, I've never used Illinois Chat. Would we be able to access the dashboard, like meaning can I know what kind of prompts the students used? Or I'm not
Yes.
familiar with the whole Illinois Chat.
Yes, Illinois Chat is a homegrown solution being built at NCSA, or National Center for Supercomputing Applications. My understanding is they do very good analytics. One of the nice benefits is not just that it's here on campus, so a little bit data protected, but because we're building it from the ground up, they are building in things like analytics, so you can see the users' chats and activity within your chatbot. So very useful tool.
So it's equivalent to ChatGPT and Gemini and all.
It is using those kinds of models. You can pull in all kinds of different models as the backbone.
Oh,
And so it's a kind of interface that allows you to integrate different models, but still serves it from our campus environment.
okay, great. Thank you.
We have a
Other
few.
questions or comments? I'm looking in the chat. I don't see anything else that I don't think we've talked about.
Any other use cases anybody would like to share? We've got a few minutes left.
Yeah. I'd be particularly interested to know if folks are trying Notebook LM at all.
I do use it all the time for preparing for the lectures, using the mind map. It's been going very well, especially the flashcards. So before and after the lecture, and see how this can help the students. And the students have been really, I mean, they send us in the feedback that this is very helpful.
Ah, good to know. Thank you for sharing that.
I also use the mind maps to summarize. I teach pharmacology, so I put all these drugs I cover in each lecture in these mind maps and turn that into a QR code and put it on the screen and students, because it's hard when you go and do the mind maps. It's very small and it's not always convenient for the students, especially when you incorporate it as a slide. So just as a tip, if you guys want to try it, I always turn it into a QR code so they scan it and they can turn it into a PDF and they see it better. They can zoom in and zoom out on their devices.
Do you share the notebooks with your students and let them interact with the content, or is it pretty much you produce stuff and then share it that way?
I produce stuff and use it for the lecture. I've never shared the notebook because our students, medical students, they have a very limited time, so they want us really to give them the cream of the cream and just because they have to deal with a lot of content. So, but I haven't tried to share the whole notebook.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. I've got a question in the chat about Nano Banana too. If you go into your Google client and you click on the plus, there's an image creation thing. And you can just select create picture there, and that'll get you into that process. So, and you get several that you can create in a day. So it's good. Um, I don't know about the QR code generator.
I think I've seen one in Microsoft even, but webtools.illinois.edu gives you those go.illinois.edu addresses that you see all over. I think that's the best.
Hmm.
And it will give you a QR code for any short URL you create.
All right. Well, I think we're at the top of the hour. So
Yes, I think that covers everything. I have advertised tomorrow's session. If you're interested, you can join online or in person in Armory Room 182. Thank you so much, Mike, for today's session. It was recorded and we will make it available.
awesome. Thanks for having me, Jim. Appreciate the
Uh-huh.
time.
Thank you.